Hello and welcome to another Firearm Freedom YouTube live stream. Guys, we are almost at number 15 here on YouTube for live streams, which is crazy. As I always say, I remember, I feel like it was yesterday we were doing the very first YouTube live stream, so it is crazy that we are already almost at number 15, and I hope you guys are enjoying them. As you are seeing the title of this live stream, we're going to talk a little bit about my dream build. What is that? Why I decided to go about it, and some different things like that. But if you missed last week's live stream, just a little bit of a heads up, we are going to be transitioning the live streams to a small talking point topic that we are going to come up with, obviously like normal live streams, but all of the live streams from this point forward are going to be basically Q&A. So pretty much if you guys come up with questions while you are watching the beginning of the topic and everything like that, these questions do not have to be based around the topic of the live stream video. They can be any question. I didn't want to just label every live stream from here on out Q&A, live stream number 15 Q&A, 16 Q&A, because I think that gets a little bit repetitive, and I also think that maybe sometimes if there is not a lot of questions, obviously it's going to help to have a backup of a talking point. How Q&As generally go and how these talking points generally go is you may get a little bit of a shorter live stream depending on how much I am rambling on, or you might be able to get a little bit of a longer live stream, if you guys have a lot of questions to ask. So while we are waiting for a couple of folks to get in here, I just wanted to let you guys know, as always, that we do have links after these live streams end down in the description where you can find things like the Firearm Freedom merchandise store to get some awesome merchandise to support the channel. I am very proud at this point that the channel is pretty much solely supported by you guys. I do get some testing and evaluation guns from time to time, but most of those I pay for in full with all of my own money, and other than that, this channel is basically supported by you guys watching the videos for the very few amount of videos that YouTube still wants to monetize, and then also from the Firearm Freedom merchandise and the Subscribestar account that we also have. The link should be live after the live stream is completed. Guys, YouTube has continued to shadow my account harder and harder every single week, it seems, and it really sucks. I'm not gonna lie. KC, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. Not too much. So with that being said, YouTube just censors the crap out of my channel. It is what it is at this point. I do this channel, and I find the motivation to do this channel because I love what I do. I have a passion for making videos for you guys, and I have a passion for, putting out gun content. But what really helps kind of defeat a little bit YouTube's algorithms is to comment down below, like the video, share it around with your friends and everything like that. That support really, I can't thank you guys enough for it. I appreciate it a ton. The fact that you guys take a moment out of your day to even watch these live streams, let alone take more time to comment down below, you guys are truly awesome. And just so you guys know, you are one of the sole things that gives me motivation on top of that passion to do this channel, to continue it and to continue putting up videos, even though YouTube pushes us back every single step of the way. So I can't appreciate that, or I can't thank you guys enough. Philip, what is up? Nice to see you as well. Mike, what is up, man? Thank you. I appreciate it. So yeah, crazy times as usual in the gun world today. So, there's always that. Now, unfortunately, on these live streams, okay, I cannot display or show you guys firearms, which is a really big downfall. I hate that because I wish I could show you the things that I'm talking about in these live streams. Philip, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. This is for your small cup of coffee. Hey, I'll take it, man. I really appreciate it. So I can't show you guys the build that I have so far, but if you missed the last live stream, I may have mentioned in live stream number 13 that I was thinking about going after one last AR build before the election. Now, obviously, we are only a few weeks before the election, so that is a pretty large task to tackle when parts and availability for ARs are so incredibly hard to find. But I was looking into my collection, trying to, see where everything's at, see where my ARs are at this point, and I'm definitely happy with every AR variant that I have in my collection. Really enjoy them. Most of them have found their way here to the Firearm Freedom channel for reviews, tabletops, and different things like that. But I started realizing that I don't really have, out of all the ARs, right, in my collection, I don't really have one that has everything, I would ever want. Every Gucci part, every high-end piece, all in one gun. I think out of every one of my rifles and pistols and SBRs, I could pull out one where I'm like, I kind of cheaped out there. I kind of, I probably would have liked this piece to be over there and blah, blah, blah. And a lot of them, I bought as complete uppers, and a lot of them are Palmetto State Armory guns. And obviously, as you guys have seen here on the channel, I've had no issues with any of those Palmetto State Armory guns. They work just fine. All the builds that I've done on them work just fine. I've actually never had a malfunction in most of them. When we are looking at a dream gun, right, I figured, you know what? I want to relay some information to you guys in seeing just how difficult it is to do a build when it is times like this. I want to be able to firsthand get you guys information on how I found these parts, how much did it cost me to find these parts, and what am I running into when it comes to buying parts for an AR to build an AR right now in times like this when we are just a few weeks from a very heated election. Like usual in 2020, it deals us a very, very interesting hand when it comes to pricing, availability, and stuff like that when it comes to firearms as a whole, let alone ARs. So I decided to go about this. Now, I won't lie to you guys, I'm cheating just a little bit. So here's the deal. I wanted to go all out with this build. My goals for this AR build are mainly to have something that's a little bit flashy, as far as flashy being just the quality of parts that I'm putting into this, but also just being built like a tank. I thought of the Jurassic Park guy the entire time I'm going after this thing, which is spared no expense. And that's exactly what I'm trying to go after with each and every individual part. So everything I spared no expense. Now, when I say I'm cheating, I say that I'm cheating because I got really lucky. I work in the gun industry. Not only do I work in the gun industry here on YouTube, but as you guys know by this point, I work at a gun shop. The gun shop that I work at specializes mainly in ARs. We actually manufacture our own forged lowers, and we also manufacture our own billet lower and upper sets. And we really kind of do a lot when it comes to AR parts. I mean, we have pretty much everything that you could imagine when it comes to high-end AR parts in normal times in the shop. What that means is that I have the ability to look for things on distribution, and I have the ability to put parts and things like that on layaway at the shop that I work at. There's a lot of different things there that many of you guys, unfortunately, are not going to have the ability to do, and that definitely helped my decision in making the build become a reality, because there was only really a few parts that I needed to go out and buy, and that is really what made it a big deal. The dream build topic is exciting. I can live vicariously through your dream build. Can't wait to hear about it. Absolutely, Casey. Unfortunately, I am in California. So sad. Hey, Philip, I get what you're going through, man. I live my entire life in upstate New York, and it is an absolute nightmare. I just got into the hobby, and I wanted to do a build. I was scared, so I just bought one 3 weeks ago for the price. 516 I thought was a great for an ATI Omni Max 16-inch. I like it. What's your opinion? Mark, the Omni Max, they're actually pretty reliable guns. from what I've seen. What I do like about the Omni hybrids and stuff like that from ATI is they went the route of a polymer lower, which, to be completely honest with you, I'm not a fan of. I've seen polymer lowers kind of warp and things like that, but my biggest gripe with polymer lowers is the fact that they aren't really a reduced price point. I mean, you know, you can buy a polymer lower for a hybrid lower for like 45 bucks. At that point, I would much rather have a forged aluminum lower, T6 aluminum, for, you know, 50 bucks or something like that. So I think I'm not really a huge fan of the polymer guns as far as the lowers and the uppers, but the nice thing that the hybrid did is they actually put in reinforced aluminum inserts at any part where there was going to be metal on polymer contact. So that is pretty cool. I like that they did that, but you know, I definitely think that for the price point, they are okay. They're not bad. And I have seen them being relatively reliable. Yeah, KC, I'm sure. I know you guys have pretty big craziness going on right now when it comes to whatchamacallit. Mark, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate that. But yeah, really big craziness right now when it comes to ammunition buying. So yeah, let's just I'll lay it out for you exactly what I ended up doing for this this dream build, right? So I ended up going with a my shop's manufactured billet lower. I have never done a billet lower build, and I was curious about it. I figured, you know what, why not? We had about 300 billet lowers available at our shop. We had no standard forged lowers. And with that being said, I was like, you know, it might be the time to try out a billet lower. For those of you guys that don't already know, a billet lower is really only different aesthetically, right? It looks a little bit more aggressive. It is made in a little bit of a different process, but our shop's billet lowers actually are made of T7 aluminum rather than T6. So T6 aluminum, there's nothing wrong with that at all. Most lowers and uppers and parts on your AR are going to be T6 aluminum, but it's nice to have T7 aluminum for a little bit more hardness. So that is really not too bad at all. Wanted to go with that, and it's not goober looking. I'm not a huge fan of the billet lowers that are just super hokey with a bunch of different crap on them. This one just has a flared magwell. Looks pretty solid, no issues there. So I went with the billet lower, and then on top of that, I went with a Geissele Super Dynamic Enhanced 2-stage flat face trigger. That trigger, for those of you guys that aren't aware, we had a bunch of those at the shop, and they are available online. But with that being said, I actually had that trigger in another gun in the collection, so I decided to swap a mil-spec trigger in that gun for the Geissele trigger in this lower. So when you get to have a bunch of different ARs in your collection, you have the ability to kind of like swap and plug and play parts, which works out really well if you're ultimately trying to do a build like this. I also am putting an EOTech 512 on it, that same thing I found on another build, swapped it out onto this build, and put a slightly more economy style optic on that build. Not a bad optic, but you know, not what I wanted on that dream build. Neil, what is up from the UK, man? Thank you for tuning in once again. I went with the Geissele Super Dynamic Enhanced, went with a BCM pistol grip. I am a huge fan of the BCM pistol grips. I think this one was like a mod 1 or the mod 0. It's the one with the small little beaver tail on the back of the pistol grip. No issues with that. On the lower, I was able to source a CMMG Premium AR Builder's Kit. If you aren't familiar with the Builder's Kit, it is basically all the springs and detents. It's everything you need to complete a lower, minus the trigger guard, fire control group, and pistol grip. They leave those parts out because a lot of people don't use those in a build, so that is generally what Builder's Kits are going to be. Had no issues with the CMMG Builder's Kit. Those Builder's Kits are very hard to find online. I tried to find them online. Not easy to find at all, and I was able to source that in the gun shop that I work at. So that's another part I got in the gun shop that I work at. The BCM pistol grip also got in the gun shop that I work at. However, those BCM pistol grips, I did do some searching, and those are available online as well. Moving to the back of the gun, I did put on a PWS buffer tube system. What that is their buffer tube, which is basically milled in different places, and then it also has number indicators, kind of cut down on a little bit of the weight and everything like that, but it also is mixed with their castle nut and their end plate. And their castle nut and end plate is a little bit unique. It's actually ratcheting so that you don't need to stake the castle nut. So that was around 99 bucks at the gun shop that I work at. Same deal, scoop that guy up, and that's what I put on this lower parts kit, or on this lower build. I think personally the PWS is probably the best buffer tube kit that you could go with. That's just me. I think it's very smooth, solid, and it also gives you some upgrades to the price point that it's at. The buffer and buffer spring that I'm going with is a Geisley H1 buffer and braided buffer spring. So I felt on my buddy's AR, he just got the braided buffer spring and buffer from Geisley, the H1. And to be honest with you guys, feeling that in his rifle, it felt pretty incredible, and it does a very, very good job. So I'm going to be picking one of those up. Those are that's going to be the last thing I'm waiting on order for this lower to be totally complete. Those Geisley buffers and buffer springs are around $60, and those are available on Primary Arms and a couple of other places. So those are out there and available. I believe Geisley does have those on their website. Finally, for this lower build, I did go with a B5 Systems SOP Mod Bravo stock, and I'm a huge fan of those stocks. I think they're pretty solid. They're very similar to the straight SOP Mod stock, except the Bravos do not have any battery compartments or anything like that. So that's the only difference with those. I have an XTAR 9 Palmer. My back likes the lightweight. Hey, nothing wrong with that, man. Mike, billet is the way to go. Use it in a lot of race car parts. Hey, you can't beat that, right? Sportsman's Warehouse in Redding, California, 9mm, 32 cents a round, 45 ACP, 41 cents a round, 5.56, 48 cents a round, plenty of inventory. That's not bad, KC. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be enjoying that information. Rip Code, what is up, man? I'm so happy you finally caught one live. I'm always seeing your comments, and you're never able to catch them live, so I'm happy you can finally catch one, man. I appreciate it. Mike, what muzzle device are you throwing on it? So, Mike, I have on my, I'm calling it my parts layaway, is all the parts that I have at the shop that I still need to pay for. I have a Silencer Co. ASR 3-prong flash hider. That's what I'm going to go with for this build because I want to be able to put my Silencer Co. Omega on the gun. So the main way I want to do that is attaching it to the ASR style mount. Now, if you are looking for a 1/2x28 5.56 ASR Silencer Co. Muzzle device of any type, fair warning, those are incredibly hard to find right now. I tried to look everywhere online, and I could not find one anywhere in 5.56. I got really lucky, and we ended up getting one into the shop that I work at. Now, I got lucky because it was actually not even 5.56. It was a 1/2x28 9mm 3-prong ASR brake, ASR mount. Now, with that being said, a lot of people are probably like, oh man, that's 9mm, that won't work. It will work just fine. The bore diameter is just cut out a little bit large, but that's the only difference, and it will work absolutely on a 5.56. So, again, I got really lucky there. I didn't know what I was going to do for a bit because I was trying to find an ASR mount everywhere, and I could not find it. KC, could you quickly touch on what parts you find most important when it comes to a build? KC, phenomenal question. What parts are most important, right? What do you want to dump the most money into when it comes to a gun? A lot of people immediately think trigger, and I disagree with this entirely. I personally, in over like half of my ARs, have a mil-spec trigger, and it is just fine. So I don't necessarily think you have to dump all the money into the trigger group. I think that's not really the wisest choice. I think there's a lot of different triggers on the market for $40 or $50 that will upgrade your mil-spec trigger far more than you would think for the money that you're putting into it. So trigger, I would leave that to the end. That's more so a nice upgrade if you can do it. Will it help you shoot faster? Yes, but I've been able to shoot pretty fast even with a BCM mil-spec nickel-coated trigger, no problem at all as well. So there's that. I would say the most important parts to the rifle would be your bolt carrier group, your buffer and buffer spring, and your barrel. Those would be, in my opinion, the most important parts of the build that I would spend the most money on. And the reason why I say that is because your barrel is going to make or break how accurate, for the most part, that gun is going to be capable of shooting. And it's also going to make or break the longevity of your gun. So if you buy a very crappy barrel that has, one, bad accuracy, and two, it is starting to shoot itself out after 5,000 rounds, in my opinion, that's not a good investment for your rifle. Does it need to be cold hammer forged? No, it does not. Is the cold hammer forged barrel going to last a little bit longer than a standard barrel? Yes, potentially it will last longer. But with that being said, as far as shootability, a non-cold hammer forged barrel is generally going to shoot just as good as a cold hammer forged barrel. I think cold hammer forging is slightly overrated. I think it's really cool to have, but if you ultimately can't drop the extra $100 to get a cold hammer forged barrel, it's not the end of the world if it's not. I know a lot of companies out there do their complete builds without cold hammer forged barrels. It's a nice thing to have. Don't worry about it if you can't get it. As far as the bolt carrier group, I would put personally, a little bit of money into the bolt carrier group. I think that is your main working, that's the heart of your rifle is your bolt carrier group. I think it's very important to get a good, reliable bolt carrier group that is going to last you a long time. And mind you, KC, when I'm answering your question here, I am talking about your be-all, end-all gun, right? Like if you're going to dump all this money into a gun, this is where I think you should dump the money into the most. When it comes to if you're just looking to slap something together that's going to go bang and it's going to work, but longevity may or may not be there, that's one thing. You could throw whatever you want in there and it's probably going to work just fine. So bolt carrier group, I would personally recommend going with a BCM bolt carrier group. I think that for all the bolt carrier groups that are out there, the BCM bolt carrier group provides the best for the price point that it's in. You have bolt carrier groups out there that are $400, $500. You have bolt carrier groups out there that are $80. Generally, the BCM bolt carrier group is right at about $189. So I think personally that by just doubling the price of the cheap end bolt carrier group to get the BCM is going to get you in a really nice spot. It has been proven time and time again by a lot of different folks out there that the BCM bolt carrier group has been able to withstand ridiculous amounts of testing. If you are not able to get the BCM bolt carrier group, another phenomenal choice for the bolt carrier group is an Aero Precision bolt carrier group. Those guys go for around $120. Not bad at all. At that point, I kind of start telling myself, like, all right, if I'm already paying $120, I might as well just add on another $40 and get like the best of the best. Take that for what you will. Does a bolt carrier group have to be nickel boron and the titanium nitride and all that stuff? No. Is it easier to clean? Yes, but it really doesn't have a lot to do with the overall reliability of the bolt carrier group. So take that for what you will as well. Moving back to the buffer and buffer spring. What the buffer and buffer spring is going to help out with most is how smooth your rifle is in the action. I can't tell you how many rifles I have in my collection where I just have bone stock, cheaper than cheap buffers and buffer springs, right? when you're looking at your buffer spring and your buffer and it's really cheap, the buffer doesn't really matter as much, but the spring does. The spring is what gets you that kind of like really gritty, tang sounding thing in the back of your buffer tube. And if you go with a high quality braided spring or something like that, it is pretty incredible how just an extra 20 bucks can dramatically change how smooth your rifle is, pulling your charging handle back and racking your bolt carrier group back and forth. It really is a big deal. And, after I started getting in more into AR builds, I would definitely say that it's a part that I would spend money on and a part that I would view important. As far as lowers are concerned, this is where I know I'm going to piss some people off. Guys, I think if you're looking to spend money on a lower and you're looking for that lower to be different than a standard forged lower, I would go with an Aero Precision lower. Those are unobtainium right now. They're very, very hard to find. And you could go with something like their M4E1 lower. And that basically gives you a billet-looking lower, but it's still forged, so it has the price point of a forged lower. They do really, really nice hard coat black anodizing, which comes out super smooth, super sleek looking, and I really enjoy them. I think they're really, really cool for the money. Anything below that, okay, and this is where I'm going to piss some people off, anything below an Aero lower, so we're talking $100 or below, spikes, PSA, Anderson, whatever else you want to have that's $80 below, $100 below, whatever else, I don't think it matters. That's just me. I don't think it matters. I have built a bunch of different lowers. I have built Anderson lowers. I have Palmetto State Armory lowers, all in that price range. I have SAA lowers, which is another one in that like $70 price point. And guys, I don't want to be one of those just as good, it's all from the same forge people, but it's all T6 forged aluminum. I don't really see the point in buying a Spikes lower for $99 that's the exact same quality as an Anderson lower. Provided you can check and make sure that all the holes are drilled properly, that everything looks to be in spec and everything like that. But if you're choosing a lower that's under $100, whatever, man. Whatever you can find in stock, go with that. If you don't want to say Anderson on the side and you want to go with the Spikes because it says Spikes on the side, go with that. But they're all T6 forged aluminum, and the moment you go above that $100, there is going to be a difference in the anodizing process and the different coatings that they use. It might be a T7 lower, it might be still a T6, but there's a bunch of different things to take into account there. So the lower, the long, and the short, I don't know if it's really worth spending a ton of money on. So, Casey, I hope that answered your question. Mark, when making a build, you're basically making a Frankenstein. Are all AR parts for ARs compatible? Mark, great question. No, they're really not all compatible. You might run into issues with compatibility only if you go with a billet upper and lower set. This is the one downfall with billet sets. There's a lot of companies out there that will make billet sets more able to accept all standard AR components. But when you get into a billet upper, there's a lot of different handguards that won't work with that billet upper, but that's really the only thing. If you are choosing a standard mil spec upper and lower, everything's pretty much going to be plug and play for the most part. When you are talking about building an AR, I'm one of those people that really considers it assembling an AR because you're not really building anything. It's just screwing on pieces here or there. I don't think I've ever had to file a part on one of my ARs that I'm, putting on there or changing out or whatever else. It just happens all the time really easily. You guys just heard me say I took a Geisley trigger from one build, put it into my lower, took this from another, put it into that. It's swapping it back and forth. On AKs, not the same story. Pretty much every time I'm modifying one of my AKs, a file comes out, a hammer comes out. It is what it is. That's just how it is. I love my AKs. They're incredible guns, but it requires a lot more, work to say to put on different pieces on AKs versus ARs. You're just slapping it together. So they're pretty much interchangeable. Mike, top tier build. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm trying. At one point, I had built with a new Frontier Armory competition carbon fiber lower receiver. Joe, what do you think about them? Thank you. Oh man, Philip, I don't have much information on that, man. I'm sorry. Frontier Armory complete carbon fiber lower. To be honest with you, I don't think I've ever even seen one, so I couldn't give you much feedback on that. My big concern is where there is metal on polymer contact. I would like that to be reinforced with some aluminum. Nicholas built my Geisley Dream Gun, got a Geisley DDC complete upper on Brownells, $800, and a strip blem DDC lower from Geisley's website for $87. I'm under 1,000 so far. These are normally 2K complete. Nick, that's a pretty phenomenal buy. The dream build that I'm doing right now is going to be a combination between a Geisley and a BCM mixed together. So Geisley, BCM in there. Good to go. Let's see here. KC, awesome info, very helpful. I had no idea about the buffer and the buffer spring. BCM seems to be the way to go for most parts. KC, I would definitely agree to that. I think if you are looking for not the most flashy, but very reliable AR parts, BCM is probably going to get you there. It probably is. Philip, amazing knowledge. Mr. Joe, thank you. Philip, thank you for watching, man. I really appreciate it. Clover89, what is up? Civilian Soldier 762, you build AKs, you assemble ARs. Exactly. Perfect. So, guys, I'm sure many of you are probably going to be wondering, well, Joe, you told us about the lower. What's going on with the upper? What's going on? What are you doing? Well, thank you for asking. I will let you know because I'm pretty excited about it. So I ended up for the barrel going with a BCM. This was a very tough call. I was up in the air between BCM and FN. When you are thinking top of the line barrels, Criterion probably comes up there. I've seen pretty good stuff about the Roscoe barrels. There's a bunch of other options. Noveski would probably be like top of the line. But let's be honest, guys, Noveski barrels are around $500, give or take, $450 to $500. I was going just all in on this build, but I do not have the funds enough to spend $500 on just the barrel. So I wanted to get maybe not the most flashy, but the best quality built like a tank barrel, and I think that has to be between the two, BCM and FN. I think both of those companies make incredible barrels. I think they've been well known for their barrels. They're chrome lined. They're known to last a long time. So that's what my decision was. It all came down to what was in stock and what was available. And what ultimately made the decision for me was that the BCM barrel that I wanted to go with, my catch that I had is I wanted a mid-length gas. I didn't want a carbine gas system. I knew I was going to run the gun mainly suppressed, and I wanted it to just be a little bit lighter on the gas. And I think if I would have went with a carbine length gas, it's still going to be a little bit gassy, and I just don't see the need to go with that if I'm going with a free float rail. I want to get a longer gas tube on there. So I wanted a mid-length gas, and unfortunately there was no barrels by FN that I could find anywhere in stock that had a mid-length gas system. So that's what really made the decision for me with the BCM. And I ultimately ended up going with BCM's standard government profile, which is not the M4 profile with the little barrel cut out for the bayonet lug and things like that. Their government profile is tapered in the rear. You have your gas block, and then it's thicker as it goes out. It was a 16-inch barrel, mid-length gas system, thicker up at the front, thinner in the rear, and it is not their cold hammer forged offering, unfortunately. I had to choose between one or the other. Their standard barrel is what they put in all their complete uppers, or most of their complete uppers and most of their complete guns, and obviously they do just fine. But if you wanted to go with a higher end BCM barrel, it adds on about $100. And to be honest with you guys, it's about $350 for that cold hammer forged barrel. And at that point, I probably would have went just with a Noveski and called it a day. So the other thing that I like about the BCM is that their barrels are dimpled underneath. And that's really nice because they're pre-dimpled for you for your gas block. For those of you guys that don't know, when you put your gas block on your barrel, and it has screws and not pins up into the barrel, what really helps making those pins not shift from side to side or walking loose is a dimple in the metal of the barrel. If you don't have that done, it is nice to have that company do it for you. That's a big deal. So BCM dimples their barrels. Awesome. FN non-dimpled, you would have to do that yourself. So I think that's pretty awesome. The barrel I ended up finding in stock on BCM's website, and as far as this being live right now, the barrel is still in stock. So if you wanted to go with a BCM barrel, they are available with free shipping right now on BCM's website. For the bolt carrier group, I ended up going with a BCM bolt carrier group. I ordered that as well, so both the barrel and the bolt carrier group are on the way. And the bolt carrier group I was able to find in stock, and it's still in stock right now on Primary Arms website. It was about $10 shipping, $220 shipped with tax, shipping, whatever else. The bolt carrier groups are also in stock on BCM's website, so that is something to think about as well. The upper, the stripped upper, is what I don't know yet. Because I have two uppers that I actually have on hold at the gun shop that I work at. One of those uppers is the matching billet upper to my billet lower. That's really cool because they're matching. It looks great. They look like they're kind of made to be on the same gun. Great. However, the other upper that I have is an Aero M4E1 upper. This is the upper that's designed to look billet, but it's not billet. So it has really aggressive cuts, but it is a forged upper. The reason I'm debating between the two, and I don't know which one to go with yet, is because of the rail that I went with. And the rail I'm very excited about. The rail I just got in yesterday. And the rail, because it's not a gun, is what I will be able to show you guys in this live stream. I'm very excited because I've never shown you guys anything on a live stream. It's always been me talking, my hands, whatever else, but I've never been able to, like, in your face, show you a product. So I ended up going with a Geisley rail, and I went with the Geisley Mark 16 rail, and Civilian Soldier, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate that. I ended up going with the Geisley Mark 16 15-inch rail. You see there, we got the little Geisley automatics. Very, very impressed with this rail. I'm not going to lie to you guys. It has really sick and pristine hard coat black anodizing on it. It has a QD sling attachment point system on the left and right hand side. It has T markings all around the top of the rail. And it also has M-lock slots on all portions of the rail. So this, what I'm excited about with this is that this is brand new to Geisley. So the only place that has the 15-inch in stock right now is Primary Arms. They actually have not dropped a 15-inch version of the Mark 16 anywhere else. It's not on Geisley's website. According to their website, they don't make a 15-inch Mark 16 rail. Geisley really doesn't make any 15-inch rails. I really like the 15-inch rail because with a 16-inch barrel, you get a really nice overall feel. It covers the entire barrel. Awesome. Works really well. But with that being said, this is a product that I guess they are dropping. Primary Arms just really got the jump on it. The downfall is that this rail is pretty friggin' salty. This rail is $300, and on Primary Arms, it came out to about $320 shipped. What you get is just the rail, and then you also get Geisley's barrel nut on the inside. It does not come with the Geisley wrench. Doesn't come with anything else. It's just the rail, barrel nut, $300. The big draw to the Mark 16 and a lot of the Geisley rails is Geisley's lockup here. So it has this ginormous anti-rotational lockup here. This thing is not going anywhere. The other thing that the Mark 16 has is 4 individual slots right here that slot on to the upper receiver and prevent the rail from turning side to side. So that's what these little guys are here. It also has on the bottom tensioning screws, so your upper slides in here, and these screws slide into the upper to give you even more of a rigid platform to make sure this thing's not going anywhere. The downfall is that Geisley states right up front that they don't make these rails for billet uppers. The reason is because billet uppers are generally kind of beefed out on the bottom, and that's not going to coexist well with those 2 locking points there. So there's a good chance that I'm going to have to go with the Aero upper, the M4E1 upper, which is not a bad thing. I think the anodizing that Aero uses with their upper would look mint coexisting with the Geisley rail. So I'm not too worried about it. The Geisley or the Aero upper is actually going to save me a little bit of money anyways from the billet upper. So not the end of the world if I have to go that route, whatever. But yeah, very excited about that. I was trying to find one of the best rails out there on the market for the Dream build, and I think Geisley's tough to beat. Now, with that being said, Daniel also makes incredibly robust rails. They're not going anywhere. I wanted the rail to be bomb-proof. Is the Geisley rail perfect? No, not at all. But it is definitely one of the top-end rails that are out there on the market. You will pay for it, but it's not too bad. Just did my Dream build a few months back. Geisley URGI upper, PWS Ambi lower, Geisley SSAE trigger, B5 stock and grip, BCM bolt carrier group, Vortex Razor HD Gen 2 E on top, and an M300 Aerosocket mount. Hey, you can't beat that, man. That is a pretty sick build. KC, thank you, man. I really appreciate it. I'm trying to make this thing as awesome as possible. Steph, Mark 16 has some issues with flex. Hope they fix it. Steph, I'm not aware of any issues with the flex. Were they having flex like on the rail flexing back and forth? Because if that was the case, I don't know how it could flex with this lockup system here. But with that being said, I don't know. Maybe that's something I haven't heard of the flex issue. Mike, what is the T markings on the rail? I've seen that before, but never look into it. Yeah, absolutely. So these markings here, the numbers that are on top of the rail, are there so that you can remember where you had optics or lasers or stuff like that fixed onto the rail. So to better aid you in returning back to 0. That is the purpose of these numbers. It's the same thing on an upper as well. So the numbers are nice. Say you had like a laser aiming module up at the top with an IR laser. You had it zeroed in. You took it off and you wanted to put it back on. You can remember, oh, I had it on number 42. So that way I'll be able to get as close to my original 0 as possible. So that's what the numbers are for. Civilian Soldier, the flex issue is a joke. All rails besides maybe a DD rail Gen 2 or Geisley Mark 8 will flex. That's the price you pay if you want a skinny boy. Yes, I will agree with that. So it is what it is. If the rail up here flexes, what are you going to do at this point? Question, what's the funniest or most interesting thing you've encountered while working in a gun shop from a customer, distributor, or coworker? Oh, God. What's the funniest thing I've seen in a while? Man, there's some interesting ones. There is most definitely some interesting ones that happen all the time. I think I would say probably the funniest thing I've seen. Okay, so I don't know per se if this is the funniest thing that I've seen. I couldn't understand it. But I had a customer before, and I'm sorry if that customer is watching this video. It happens. Everybody makes mistakes. This is probably one of the funniest things, though. He was shooting. It was at a previous gun shop that I worked at where we had a range. He was having issues with his AR in his range. In the range, it was not working. Would fire around, nothing. Would fire around, nothing. The bolt was not reciprocating, so this is a big indication that that is a gassing issue because it's not getting enough pressure to fly the bolt backwards. So I took the rifle, apart, and I went back into the range, shot it. I'm like, what's the deal? Nothing's working. So I bring it back and I break it open again, and I take his bolt carrier group out this time. And the gas key on the bolt carrier group, which is that little like L-shaped thing on top of the bolt carrier group that the gas is coming into, was super loose. And I realized it wasn't staked, and I'm like, that's weird. Why is this part, one, not staked? That's an indication of a crappy bolt carrier group. And two, why is it loose? So I went over to him. I'm like, well, your problem is probably your gas key up here is loose. And he tells me, no lie, he goes, oh yeah, that was really hard to get off because it seemed like somebody crunched the metal on each side. So I broke that metal piece off and I unscrewed it because a buddy of mine told me I had to clean underneath it. So this guy had a staked gas key. He broke the stake on the gas key. I don't know what hex wrench that he used to break the staking on the gas key. But he breaks the staking on the gas key, takes the gas key off just to wipe underneath it, puts it back on, and lo and behold, it's loose as shit now because he broke the staking to take it off. And worst part about it was that I explained this to him, and I'm trying, how do you explain that to somebody without, I'm not trying to make this guy look like an idiot, but I'm like, dude, why would you do that? And, he's basically getting angry at me that he took it off. He was like, well, how was I supposed to know that wasn't supposed to come off? I'm like, I don't know. Maybe the fact that the metal, as you so eloquently put it, was crunched in on the screws. Maybe that was an indication. But regardless, that was a crazy situation. And that was probably one of the funnier times that I've had in a gun shop. I've never really experienced something like that. And it's a beginner mistake. It happens. But I don't know. But KC, that would probably rank at one of the tops for sure. Mark, don't know if you can say it or not, but does your shop have an online site to order from? My town in Texas only has Bass Pro and Academy pawn shops. Mark, so unfortunately, I can't say the shop name that I work at, but to give you an idea, at this point, we have actually turned off our website completely from online ordering. That is how bad it has gotten with distribution. We just basically would have situations where a gun would pop in that it was in stock on our website. We would have 10 or 20 people buy it at the exact same time. And obviously we would have major issues with refunds because there was only one item and the website wasn't going fast enough, blah, 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 blah. So for the moment, we actually don't even have a special ordering capability because the ordering is that hard to keep up with. Little Joe, I have a stripped Arrow M4E1 upper and lower, leaning towards an 11.5 build. What is your opinion of an adjustable gas block versus non-adjustable? Little Joe, great question. So I'm one of those people where I don't know if an adjustable gas block is really needed. I don't think it is personally. I have never used an adjustable gas block on my 5.56 builds. I don't think it's necessary. That's just me. I wouldn't spend the extra money on it. I would go with a good bomb-proof gas block, like a BCM, Geisley, or something like that, and I would call it a day there. I think where an adjustable gas block is needed is on a direct gas 308 AR-10. That's where I think it's needed. I think on an AR-10 build, they tend to be notoriously over-gassed in direct gas impingement guns, And I think ultimately the only way to get them to run reliable and to get them to run reliable suppressed is to have an adjustable gas system in a direct gas impingement 308. So that's the only time I think it's needed. I think in a shorter gun, I think you could get far more success with different buffer weights than having an adjustable gas system. So that's just me. That's my opinion. I would go with the adjustable buffers. Davina Clark, going to have to rewatch a lot of info. Hope someone makes a single shot break action 5.7 by 28 to retire brass. That would not be a bad option for 5.7 by 28 as far as if you're looking to keep the brass. What? Question mark. How's the PTR holding up? So, to be completely honest with you, with the PTR, I have still not shot it since the fourth video. I would imagine that it is fine. But to be completely honest with you guys, ammunition right now is becoming even harder to find. And it is very tough for me to justify even a box of 9mm to go to the range. The downfall with that is that I need to choose, okay, I have one box that I'm going to take to the range to do a review on a gun. What gun is that going to be? And to be honest with you, I don't want to risk bringing the PTR to the range, having it not work, and have me waste that one precious box of 9mm and waste the time and film. Jesus, what time period am I from? Waste the memory card space. That's when you know you're old, right? But yeah, so I don't want to waste just the filming and everything like that on something that may or may not be good. I think the PTR is good. I ran 250 rounds through it in the last video, and I did not have a malfunction of any type. It should be okay. I have not taken it to the range yet to verify. Now, with that being said, the moment that ammo becomes a little bit better, or if I magically come across a bunch of 9mm, I will be taking that to the range again. It's just right now, I got to be very picky with what I bring to the range, and that gun is just not going to be one that I bring to the range anytime soon. Unfortunately, when you have a bunch of different guns in your collection that shoot that same caliber, you know, one of them's getting shot, one of them's not, and that's just kind of how it goes. Guys, we are right at about 8 minutes left, so if you guys have any other last questions, be sure to throw them down below, and I will try to answer them. Just fire them off as quickly as possible, and if you don't have time to write down your question, don't worry. Save it for Sunday's live stream next week, and you will absolutely get it answered. Hunting AR-15, do you go with a 16-inch or bigger, or do you go with a pistol AR? Does it really even matter? Mark, great question. I would say that it really depends. If you are going to be shooting at game, say 200 yards and in, you know, I would say I wouldn't probably go below a 14.5 inch or like an 11 inch. You know, 11 inch would probably be like my bare minimum, maybe a 10.5. But I wouldn't go with like a 7.5 inch for that distance. But realistically, if you're 100 yards and in, I don't think it matters at all. If you wanted the best ballistics possible for a 223, I would go with a 20 inch. Because that's what you're going to get the best ballistics from. But it also depends on the game that you're shooting. It depends on the game. If you're looking at hogs, totally different story. If you're looking at coyotes, different story. If you're looking at larger game, an AR-10, it also depends on your state, what you're legal to hunt with in your state, what you're not, and a bunch of different things like that. Great live stream as usual. I may promote your channel live stream in my forum. It would be nice to see this channel grow. Later, Joe. KC, I can't thank you enough for that, man. I really, really appreciate it. Anything helps out. Neil, I think I'll stay away from buying a 9mm when I'm over in the US. Yeah, Neil, the downfall is pretty much there is nothing left unaffected when it comes to calibers at this point. What do you think about a 4570 AR-10 for hog hunting? Looks awesome. I would say, Davina, that's hopefully I'm pronouncing your name right, by the way. If I'm not, I'm so sorry. But I would say an AR-10 in 4570 would definitely put him down pretty freaking quick. Little Joe, thank you for the great info, Joe. Take care. No problem at all, Joe. Thank you for watching. This was a freaking awesome stream. Mark, thank you so much, buddy. It is awesome because you guys are here to make it awesome. Thank you, what? Question mark? I hope you schedule a live stream the Sunday after the election in case Biden wins. You can update us on the industry you are seeing in the gun shop. Nick, absolutely, buddy. There will be a live stream every Sunday, and so you guys know, if I ever do a live stream that's on a different day or a live stream not on that Sunday or it's postponed or something like this, I will always update you guys in the YouTube stories. Stories like Instagram, stuff like that, but stories on YouTube. Perfect. Okay, great. If Biden wins, I hope the live stream is a therapy session for us. Yeah, we will see. Crazy times. All right, guys. I'm going to wrap this stream up now. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And stay tuned. Get your questions in your mind for next week's live stream. I hope you guys are enjoying these. Stay tuned. I got a video I'm editing up right now for the channel that should be up in a day or two. So stay tuned. Get ready for that. Comment down below, like the video, hit subscribe if you haven't already. All that stuff really helps me out. And also check out the links down in the description where you can check out the channel in a bunch of different aspects. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Have an incredible night. And as always, stay tuned for more great content to come soon.